Hi, I'm Liz Schneider. I'm with Infinity Wealth Company, and I just wanted to welcome you back and thank you for joining us today and let you know that I will be interviewing Erin Zilka today, one of my colleagues, entrepreneur and owner of Kona Financial. In our last episode, we talked about simple ways to stay focused on achieving your goals. Today, I'll be asking Erin to share some ways in which she's learned to remain dedicated to her goals and dreams, turning them into reality, focusing on the definition of persistence and self-discipline and what that means to us. So, Erin, you dreamt it, you wrote it down, maybe took a baby step or two. Let's talk about how it's going now and how you're working on setting your sights on new dreams as you go.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to run through this new format with you and kind of have the interview style as our setup for today. So, as Liz mentioned, I'm Erin Zilka. I own Kona Financial Planning and very excited to be talking through this topic today with Liz because I do think it's very important. As she mentioned, we talked last time about some of the baby steps that we can take and some of the small practices we can put into place towards achieving our goals. But it's really hard to, I think, for a lot of us stick with those goals, and it's easy for us to lose sight of those goals. And so it's something that we have to constantly work towards. So, um, as Liz mentioned, as you mentioned, I think the whole focusing on persistence and self-discipline are two very important keywords that really play a strong role for me when I am working through, writing down what my goals are, figuring out how to take those baby steps towards them, but then how do I stay committed to that? Um, so I think when we talk about persistence, we talked about baby steps in the last episode, and I think that that's something that is so incredibly important. So it's taken me a long time to get to this point in my life, but I do think that when I set a goal for myself, taking baby steps, I have to really focus on, I think, giving myself grace. So persistence is key, but I think also grace and a little bit of forgiveness is also very important, and they go hand in hand with each other. So if I set a goal for myself and I talk about things that I want to do a little bit each day, I used to be one of those people that I thought, okay, I need to spend a minimum of 30, 45, 60 minutes focused on that goal. I need to set some time aside. I really need to make sure that I block out time in my calendar. And if I got to a point where I felt overwhelmed with my day and I just didn't get to it, it just didn't happen. That was like the first thing to fall off of my schedule, to fall off of the list. And it was day after day after day. If I couldn't commit a good chunk of time, then it just no longer was a priority. So I would say in more recent years, gotten to a point where I am very comfortable with telling myself, you know what, I've had a rough day. Things are kind of crappy. It didn't work out the way that I thought, or my schedule didn't follow what I put in place for myself. And so if I can commit 5 minutes or even 3 minutes of my time, even if it's just envisioning what I know that goal is and what I see for myself in the future or turning it into an achievement down the road, that is something that helps me stay focused and motivated towards achieving that. So I think that creating that habit is part of the persistence too, of just envisioning the goal. And if all you have is a minute of your day and it's the last thing you do before you go to bed at night, thinking through what that dream looks like in terms of success for you is part of what helps keep you motivated and persistent. And it is part of what builds that self-discipline then. Because to me, the persistence is part of what leads to the self-discipline practice. And that's, I think, something that has become very important to me is just making sure that I'm taking those steps slowly and in the right direction
Yeah.
towards that goal that I've put in place for myself.
You said a couple of things that I think are really key that I want to reiterate here. So, first of all, give yourself some grace. Be nice to yourself. Be kind. So,
Right.
we all have bad days. Trust me. So I think the first thing is, if you're getting up on the wrong side of the bed and you notice that, first of all, just, it's okay. The other thing, you mentioned on our previous podcast that you like to draw things on your mirrors.
Yeah.
Since you've done that, I've started taking little sticky notes with my favorite quotes and motivational comments and putting them on little mirrors and different areas of places that I'll see them. I think that's kind of a cool, just a minor baby step that keeps your mind focused on what your goal is, what your why is. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to, what's our purpose? The other thing too is, I like to use a daily planner, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm terrible at using them consistently, but I love them.
I agree with you there.
So I'm
Finding them and
I'm
mapping things out in them.
yes, I do it once and then I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm like a squirrel. I see something on Facebook, a better planner that has better motivational ideas. So bottom line is though, I am writing down my goals, just little bits every day saying, what do I want to get done? So the more you can do that, the better. But again, don't feel like you have to be perfect at it to really move toward your goals. The other thing too, we talk a lot about envisioning things, really being able to see your dreams and goals. They say statistically, if you can actually visualize yourself achieving your goal, if we see ourselves sitting on our private jets, we're gonna, there's a much greater chance of us achieving that goal if we can really see us sitting there doing our work on the jet while it's going to our fabulous destination. But cybernetics. So, my husband introduced me to this concept years ago because he's a big golfer and he would continually watch these CDs, I guess they were back in the day, of the exact perfect golf swing. So even if you're not doing it, perfectly, if you can visualize somebody else doing it, your idol, or, think about Steve Jobs, some of the wonderful quotes and things that he did, and what a great marketing machine he was. So he was able to really, just visualize beyond what's even possible to imagine.
Yeah.
So I think that's, a great couple of concepts there.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And there's been a lot of research that shows, we've talked about this, that almost like the professional athletes that we know so well, and they talk about how a big part of their training is not even on the field or on the court or on the course, whatever, athletic avenue it is, but half of it is visualizing the win or what it takes to cross the finish line or to get the touchdown. And they talk about how they will spend time working through the play in their head or going through the practice of what they need to do. If it's golf and they have a certain number of swings that they need to get onto the green, they visualize it, and it really does become part of their muscle memory, so that they even experience or kind of live through that win of, once they sink the putt or once they get the touchdown, they almost have like that physical and emotional response to what it's like to win. And so part of that is all integral to creating that process. So when we say envision or visualize, like you said, it's not just, okay, let's think about it if we're up on a stage and we're winning an award, but who are we surrounded by, and what's the atmosphere feel like? What are the smells that we're experiencing? Like, get it as detailed as you can, because I think the more that you create that, the more likely it is to become the reality. And you have to be very specific about all those aspects, I think. And it just creates it creates the environment, and then it becomes, that's just how you're living your life, and that's what you're achieving.
Yeah. So it's kind of thinking about it in one way or another, doing something or thinking about it every day.
Yeah.
And again, you might not be in a great place to think about it, but just the thought of, letting it cross your mind, I think is a good thing. The other thing, going back to the two words of persistence and discipline, I think those can have some negative connotations sometimes.
Yeah.
Again, we're telling you right off the bat that you're going to have some bad days. Persistence and discipline. Sometimes these self-help books are telling you, if I only do these 10 things every single day for the next 60 days, I
Yeah.
will have created the most amazing habit. Well, I'm honestly lucky to get through 3 or 4 days, if that. There was a 75-day challenge the beginning of this year.
Nice.
I literally, I don't think it was 2 days because it was it was kind of some crazy stuff for, I think it was diet and exercise.
Yeah.
But although it was reading 10 pages and doing this, so it was all these things. So it didn't last very long. So I applaud you if you're one of those who can really stick
Yeah.
to it and do that, because that's what we're all aiming for. But we're also trying to give grace to the regular human beings that are out here not always doing absolutely perfect every day. And that's when we talk about wealthy empowerment now, that wealthy, if you haven't noticed it, it's it's a combination of the word wealth and the word health. And it goes back to our belief of striking a balance, because so many times, and you were just telling me earlier, so many times people have a very negative connotation about striving to be wealthy
Yes.
and what that means, and that it entails being greedy and doing things illegally or certainly unethically.
Yeah.
The healthy part of that is that other side of saying that's nonsense.
Yeah.
There is, and we are living proof of that you can be successful.
Yes.
You don't have to climb the ladder while you're stepping on other people to get ahead. And you certainly you don't have to do that in your goal setting as well. So we aim to bring balance and really disrupt an industry that can be quite pessimistic in so many ways. So we want to bring optimism to this, the world of finance, and make wealthy a really kind of something healthy and something positive to strive for.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of my little side notes on the persistence and discipline. But yeah, let's go further here. Um, we talked too about having a partner in crime. I'll kind of let you share your details on having somebody in that working toward the same goals.
Absolutely. Well, I agree with you completely. I think there's a lot of things that you just kind of touched on that I think are very important to both you and I when it comes to balance and the mindset around wealth and health and striking that perfect harmony of where we're, focusing our energy and what we're looking to achieve. And I think that when it comes to, we keep talking and referring back to persistence and self-discipline. I think one of the greatest, ways that I stay disciplined is not necessarily self-discipline. It's discipline and accountability because I have you as a partner in crime. I think that having someone there that understands what it is that you're looking to achieve or what it is that you're looking to build and grow, that has similar values, but maybe a different way of going about things, really does help you better strike that balance. And I think that the accountability factor, there are a lot of things that I would love to say, I sit down and I create my plan and I stick to it. And like you mentioned, for those people, it's a very select few, but there are some people that say, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to start a new habit and I'm going to be very strict about it. And they're off and running and they do it. But I don't think that that's normal for 90% plus of the population. It
It is
just, that's not how most of us operate. And so I think having someone there to encourage you when you're feeling frustrated or you've lost sight of your vision for the day or what is really motivating for you really sometimes is what can make the difference between success and failure. And I hate to use the word failure because I think that failure is just another opportunity for success. And I think a lot of it has to do with what is our mindset at the time and how are we working through what we allow ourselves to believe or what we allow to bring us down. And so I think that having that partnership with someone that really helps boost you up when you need it, and maybe in a way that you're not seeing at that point in time, can make all the difference in the world. And that is a big thing that I think we should all work towards, is finding that buddy. So whether it's a workout buddy or a business buddy, whatever it is, if you have someone there who's kind of pushing you along when you don't feel it, I think that that really can help strengthen your likelihood of success when you are reaching towards things. And I love, kind of just back to that topic again about wealth and health, and this negative, this connotation that it's received. And we talked about it earlier. There are people who say money is the root of all evil, and I don't believe that's true, and I know you don't believe that that's true. I think that when it comes to having a balanced focus on achieving our goals and what it is that we want to create in life is also very important when it comes to what we're building in terms of wealth and health as well. And so having a more positive mindset, having that focus on wealth is not just financial wealth. It's the success of your health and your family and your friendships and the community that you surround yourself. There are so many things that go into building a wealthy life that have nothing to do with money. Money is important, and it is a tool, and it's something that helps us get there. But I think that one of the things that we are working through, Liz, you and I, is, like you said, becoming disruptors of that concept and just creating that mentality and reminding people that it's not about the greed and having so much. It's the more we have, the more we can give, the more we can give back, and the better we can build. And so those are the kinds of things that I think just they become very important. And if you have someone who shares that vision along with you, it helps keep you motivated towards, I think, working in that direction.
Absolutely. Which it was a great segue, what you talked about here with the family and finances and your health and different priorities that we all have. I talk about, when you get up on the wrong side of the bed, but it's honestly every day you could be on the absolute, best side of the bed when you get out of bed, and something happens to make that just feel out of balance. And the analogy I like to share is when you get in your car and you're driving down the road, and all of a sudden something is not right. All of a sudden, you have the lights flashing that something's going on with one of your tires, and you have a flat tire. And if you think about the wheel, with all the different slices of the pie, and those slices are all of those different areas, the different roles that you play, the different activities that you do, the different priorities that you have. We certainly don't just have one goal in our life. So when we think of that, think of it on any given day, any one of those can be slightly out of balance or way out of balance. And you could be doing, and sometimes I kind of think of this too, when I get hard on myself for not dieting and exercising enough, and yet my work is doing really well, clicking along. You still have to come to a balance of, yeah, I need more salads, and that's gonna, and it does make you feel better. It's that one little change. So I know I tend to focus on that, and we're more financial planners, which we will have episodes and episodes on more specific financial topics. But I think it's really important, before we even get into the heavy duty financial planning and budgeting, that we're taking care of ourselves as women first, and then we are moving forward, because what they say in the airplanes, that it's the first thing they tell you is, if that air mask drops down, you have to put it on yourself first, because you cannot save anybody else if you don't save yourself.
Yep.
So you have to be, it's tough, but you have to be a little bit selfish, and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Because the second I say feeling selfish, every single woman that's watching this had
It's
something out
negative.
there that
Yep.
said, that feels so mean.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
taking
not,
attention
though.
off of somebody.
It's
Right.
I love, like, we've now overused this word of self-care, but that's what it is. You just have to take care of yourself. It's not being selfish, but we cannot operate in a healthy fashion and create a wealthy environment around ourselves if we are not first doing what we need to have the tools and the resources that we need to then help others. It's very draining and can be energy draining. So you're right. I love your whole concept and analogy of the car with the flat tire. I think it's so important. And I think we've talked about this before where you take it a step further and you say, well, it has to be in balance. You have to have the right amount of air in every single tire. So it's not, lopsided as you're driving along. You don't have the steering wheel just pull in one direction and you're all out of alignment. But it's also like you have to have everything at the right pressure too, because where we are putting additional pressure or focus on ourselves or in a certain area in life can make the difference also. So you need to have all your wheels in balance, all your tires filled with the right pressure exactly. And it's hard to maintain that at all times. And
Right.
we talked about the concept of balance. And I tell people, I tell my clients all the time, like we base a lot of our financial projections on average returns, but we have to remind people you don't get average returns in an average fashion. It's not 6%, 6%, 6%, 6% every single year. It's 12% and then 3% and then 14% and then 7%. But you have to remember with balance also comes the ability to be fluid with things. So if you are putting the focus or the pressure in the right areas of life at different times or at the right time, you have the ability to be more fluid and flexible so that you can shift from focusing on your professional life to then focusing on your personal life and your home life and then focusing on yourself and your health. And you have to be able to create that balance, but in a fluid fashion.
I think that's a fantastic analogy with the numbers because I was just thinking of, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it's another Steve Jobs quote that he had, and it goes along basically saying that if you find yourself, like for instance, going to work every day and things are just not going right, it's basically saying give yourself some time. But if it keeps going and it keeps bugging you and it keeps going off the rails, something needs to change.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, with the markets, we're paid to monitor our clients' investments. But honestly, even if I watched my own investments every single day, I would go crazy. So you'd want to tweak it, you'd want to change it. And that might be maybe overdoing it, trying to tweak things every single day to get them back on track. But, give yourself, let's just see how this goes. We know what we're supposed to do and we know how to self-correct. If we don't know how to self-correct, again, maybe that's that partner in crime. You're reaching out and really figuring out what am I doing wrong. Don't be afraid to ask, but be careful who you trust. Trust but verify.
Exactly.
um, I thought it was really cool too. And if you find yourself in a situation where you feel a little helpless or hopeless, my very best friend in here in town, she reached out to me after many, many years of not really being in touch. We'd run into each other and everything was great, but we were never really would consider ourselves best friends. And she reached out to me one time on Facebook, and it was in the message area. And I never contact anybody through Messenger, or maybe I do it a little bit more now, but and she was reaching out and asked how I was doing and had a family situation that she wanted, just somebody to talk to. And it was so out of the blue, but I was also so worried that I reached out to her actually on with her cell phone and texted and said, "Hey, was that you? Or is that some scam or something?"
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't, in today's world,
No, it's
if it's a
unusual. Yeah.
scam or what. So, well, it turns out it was real. And, we got together over coffee and we've been walking and having coffee and getting together and becoming really, really close ever since because she was willing to take that uncomfortable step and reach out and say, "Hey, are you there? Can you help me?" And I'm still grateful. It still gives me shivers that, people think of me, that they can trust me with, whatever's bothering them. And, so I think too, that's maybe a lesson.
Yeah.
Be that person that people can rely on and trust. And honestly, it's those things about being grateful. It's that they'll be grateful for you. You'll feel better. You'll feel grateful about it. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of a self-fulfilling, prophecy. You start just opening yourself up to helping others and helping yourself, and again being kind to yourself, because I'm not always super easygoing on myself.
None of us,
um,
none of us are.
but I also have learned that, it's not the end of the world if I don't,
Yeah.
do exactly as I intended.
Well, and I love that story too, because I think, from both sides of it, it is a great lesson that sometimes there are things that we don't feel comfortable talking to those closest to us about, whether we worry about judgment or we worry about, just the protectiveness. Sometimes our family and friends become very protective if we need to talk to somebody that's a little bit more of an objective third party. And I think that you and I being in the roles that we're in, not only I think having the personality typically that for whatever reason, we allow people to feel more comfortable to have those conversations, but because of what we do, we very quickly become viewed as a trusted source or just a good sounding board. And we do have a lot of conversations with clients and friends and family members then because of what we have experience in and what we've learned. And so I think kudos to your friend for having, I think, the feeling, for being brave enough to reach out to somebody that she wasn't all that close with, but knowing that she needed the support. She needed somebody that she felt like she could rely on a little bit. And now look what it's grown into. I think that's an amazing and beautiful thing. I think sometimes you just have to be okay giving yourself that permission to reach out to somebody that you think you can talk to through any situation. And really quickly, I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier. It's back on the balance topic, but you mentioned looking at our finances every single day and feeling like we need to tweak something just because of little adjustments here and there. While that is what we do for a living and we will make adjustments. I think the importance of when we talk about what you're building and what you're creating within your life and within your, financial life, as well as your professional life and your home life. One of the things that I think that we rely on, and we know this because we do it every single day, is when we are choosing investments, when we're building a portfolio, there are so many building blocks that go into creating that total portfolio. We look at what are the fundamentals of the companies that we're investing in? What are the values of the companies that we're investing in? What's the profitability of the companies that we're investing in? So we look at all of these different building blocks. And while there may be blips from time to time within the market because investor sentiment is a little negative that day, or we had something come out in the news that everybody is talking about and it's got people worried a little bit. When you look at the underlying fundamentals, the foundation of what you have built, whether it's an investment portfolio or you are building something bigger and you're working towards achieving a goal and a dream of yours, you know that if you have that foundation strong and built in a way that you need, that you can make little tweaks from time to time, but trust what you've created, build it in a way that it gives you that sense of peace that you need so you can sleep comfortably at night and know that, okay, I might need to pivot here and there from time to time, but what I've created and what I've built still aligns with the vision that I have for myself. So whether it's an investment portfolio or it's a bigger dream that you have, I think that all of those rules continue to hold true.
Right. I think years ago, somewhere, nobody really talks about this, but the rules on creating a solid financial plan really easily map over to
Yeah.
meeting any of your goals. And it's the same step process. You can't really jump through any of the steps and expect to necessarily get to your goal without, getting through some of the others, and that's, like we talked about defining your goals. Some people think that they know they want to make more money. They want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's, it's a really ambiguous goal. So
It's very vague. We need to narrow it down.
real big. So when you go down to, what am I good at? What do I like doing? What brings me joy? Those types of things. Those are really important things that set the basis, the hierarchy of needs. We need to get the basics first before we can, add on all the extras, uh, driving or flying in a jet is up here. We got to do a lot of other really more important things
Yeah.
where we have that little fluff goal met. So
Yes.
um, and so yeah, because to be fair, that's not our primary goals in life.
It's not,
But it would be fun.
but it'd be a
Uh,
big goal, big dream.
that's right. And, so, but one of the things that kind of leads me to, talking about those basic, important things, really kind of tie into what are your values.
Yeah.
And we have a list of values. You can look up the list of values, but the things that really are most important to you, your spouse, your family members, whatever defines you, your groups that you're in, those values should kind of be a common center of your universe that you can always rely on, go back to integrity, ethics, loyalty, um, you know, whatever those different, being kind. So those are the things that we want to make sure that you are focusing on and really kind of narrowing it down to the most important things to you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's such an important thing for us to remember. And it's easy to lose sight of because I think that in our daily lives, there's so many things that distract us on a regular basis, whether it be an employer or kids, or we've got some sort of deadline that we're trying to meet, or a new goal that we've set for ourselves for fitness. And we're just trying to like get it all in a single day. There's so many distractions and there's so much noise that we are surrounded with on a daily basis. But I think that when we can take a step back and we can think about, like you said, that list of values that really drives us, that's part of who we are, internally, it's part of our makeup, part of our DNA. That is when we feel most, I think, aligned with what it is that we're doing in life and most, I think, joyful and probably most like that we're providing the most value that we possibly can to ourselves and to others. So I think that we've talked about this before. There's been so many times that we've seen, whether it's people that we're working with or people that we're working for, you have this vision that you are told by the person that's creating a business or they're creating an organization. This is what we want to build. This is how we want to grow things. This is the culture and the feel of how we want things to be and how we want other people to be able to participate. But as you grow, there tends to be a fork in the road. And I think it happens many times. I think it happens over and over again where you have a choice where you can make as either the leader of that organization or the leader of the family, whatever it may be, that you can realign with your values that are most important to you and what you want to transfer on to, I think, share with the next generation, even, or whoever it is that you're surrounding yourself with. And we have a choice where we can take time and take a step back and realign with our core values. Or I think the further we start to get away from what really drives us and what we believe is most important to us in life, the more difficult it is to find that joy in what we're doing. And at some point, you can become so misaligned with what you originally thought you were creating to where it is now that it's almost become its own animal. It's become its own entity, its own beast, and you don't know how to manage it. And it just drains your energy and it becomes a lot more of an effort. And you're not enjoying what you're doing, or you're not enjoying what you're the people you're surrounding yourself with because they've become so opposed to what you originally thought you were creating.
Right.
So I think that no matter what it is that we're doing in life or what situation that we're in, I think that our decisions are made or should be made based on those basic values. So take the time to sit down. As Liz mentioned, we have a list. So we're actually going to provide like a list in our notes if you want to refer back to them, and take some time, sit with it, circle what really resonates with you. But think about it when it comes time for you to make a decision, no matter what that decision is. What is it that's important to you? What values do you feel like you want to live your life by? And are you aligning with those values in every decision that you're making? Because the more that you stay aligned with those, I guarantee you the happier that you are going to be. And the more that you create that positivity and that environment around you, like you emanate this frequency of positivity and growth and wealthy, no matter what it is, that wealthiness concept, it's going to come back to you tenfold. And you are going to have more and more people that are drawn to you, that think like you do, that want the same things that you do. And it just continues to build and grow from there.
I like to, I'm not verbatim good at remembering words from movies, but one of my favorite movies, The Women, and I think I talked about it in our last podcast, but this is a different area. It's Annette Bening at the beginning of the movie. She's walking through Saks Fifth Avenue, and she's judging everything in the store, and she's also being judged by like the ladies at the makeup counter and the perfume counter, and this one woman pulls up she said, would you like a facelift in a bottle? And her comment was, this is the face I was born with, deal with it.
I love that.
These little comments just stick with me, and it's so true. I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, when are we going to be happy with who
Yeah.
we are? But again, it goes back to, who are we?
Yeah.
And really figuring out what our goals are. We're so torn as women, being the caregivers to so many other people, doing, having careers, doing so many things in our everyday lives, that we forget what's important to us. So, going back to the journaling, which we both love doing, going back to the notebooks, or the day timers, the different planners that you can find, even if you're changing them on a regular basis. If you're just reiterating a few things in a few words, all of them kind of do say, list your top goals that you want to get done today. Who cares if you don't get them all done today, but you're writing them down, and it's becoming a more self-fulfilling.
And if you get one done, you need to create the practice that, hey, this was a successful day, and I am proud that I got that one thing done.
Yeah, with that, talking about your goals, and we got into the persistence and discipline of, just kind of staying focused on your values, staying focused on that goal. What we want to also explain down the road too is how to make a goal a little bit more specifically oriented to getting it done.
Yes. Yeah.
They're called SMART goals, and the well-documented method has been shown to help people achieve their goals even faster. So we will be talking about that in the future, but quickly, the outline for what each letter stands for is the S, be specific with your goal. M, make it measurable. A, attainable. R, relevant. And T, time-bound.
I think that all those things are very important, and I'm excited to dig into that concept further. As you mentioned, it is very much it's been shown that it really does help people, I think, achieve that next level of success. And I think that it will be helpful. I'm excited to share some stories, even from like the wealth management and financial planning side of things, as we create those goals, the types of specifics that we're putting in place as we're having conversations with clients too, and why we set goals the way that we do. So I think that will be a great thing for us to dig into next time, because I think we could spend an hour talking about all of those aspects as well. But it's important because, as you really mentioned it earlier, whether it comes to your financial plan or whatever goal it is that you're setting, a lot of what we are talking about and a lot of what we are encouraging are things that we have discussions with our clients on a regular basis, because it's all the same basis of factors that you really need to put in line, following your values, making sure that you have that solid foundation in place, and then learning how to give yourself a little bit of grace, or allowing certain things to ebb and flow as they need to, and create that fluidity, and have the comfort in place where you know that you don't have to constantly be micromanaging every little thing to still achieve the goals that you set aside for yourself. So
absolutely. So we're going to add a worksheet on, and our discussion, we hope, will help you to stay motivated and driven toward your goals. We know it was a lot to digest today, but we hope it will remind you to be kind to yourself, focus on what you can control, and stay eager to push toward those dreams you have for yourself. We're each put on this earth with a purpose in life. Figure out what that purpose is for you, what fulfills you and brings you joy. It's our goal to help you find that purpose and keep reaching for it with a little bit of balance, with a little bit of kindness, with a little financial guidance along the way. And so much of that, what we can be doing, can be dictated by how we manage our money. So we're here to encourage and empower you to do your best along the way.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in today. And we look forward to having you join us next time. Thank you. Investment advisory services are offered through Wealthy Empowerment Network, an investment advisor in the states of Illinois, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Ohio. Kona Financial Planning and Infinity Wealth Company, LLC are doing business as or DBA names of Wealthy Empowerment Network, LLC. The views and opinions expressed in the podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing should be construed as personalized advice or recommendation of any kind. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decisions. All expressions of opinion are subject to change without notice, and there is no guarantee that any claims made will come to pass. We do not guarantee the accuracy of the information provided. There is no assurance that any investment, plan, or strategy will be successful. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal.